Forward, like I said, thanks again for everyone joining us. This is just going to be a high-level overview of Google Analytics, and it really just appeals to. It's geared towards appealing to everybody who, whether you've had direct exposure to it on an ongoing basis or you've just heard of it and it's super important. So, without further ado, I'll jump in to the presentation today. I'm going to use my screen here and jump back and forth. Hands-on is super important in learning analytics, so I'll be in PowerPoint and I'll also be jumping back and forth between a browser. So I just want to tell you a little bit about Six City Marketing, who we are. We're specifically an agency that specifically focuses on internet marketing. We are typically hired in to help clients achieve their overall online marketing goals. And these are some of the channels that we utilize to help them achieve their online goals. Google Analytics is a big part of how we show the value that we bring in meeting our clients' goals. And it's extremely important as we get into it in here. So what better to start a afternoon 1:30 post-lunch webinar session other than talking about analytics. Let's talk about The Office, right? Now, I mean, what essentially is, I'm borrowing something from The Office. This is Michael Scott, right? And when we get into analytics, we're really talking about showing value. And if you're hyper-focused on the statistics that show the most value, you're going to dive into essentially showing the things that you're doing and how they translate to the bottom line. One of the things that stuck out to me the most in my career is that one of my old bosses said, "John, your value to our company is how much you either save it or make it." And in reality, Google Analytics is something that allows you to show, especially in marketing, whether you're doing the traditional marketing or digital marketing, showing how effective all of the things that you do translate to the bottom line. So it's really exciting, the things that you can learn, and it really helps you as you see how the different things that you're doing have an effect. So I've kind of alluded to a few things that we'll be talking about in a webinar, just reviewing some basics. Again, I'm going to be super hyper-focused on the key metrics because it's super easy to get lost in all of the data that Google provides you with in analytics. I'm going to try to get you to the point to where you'll be able to read the baseline metrics. The metrics we value, I say Six City Marketing, these are the things that we look at right off the bat and present to our clients on an ongoing basis, month after month. And in looking at these things, really what I'd like you to do is establish to some extent how you are doing right now with your online marketing or marketing in general, and then review that data and try to take the next steps to improving that through some key screens in analytics. For those of you who are just familiar with analytics, this is the industry standard for website metrics. It provides you with a variety of data, including how people found your website, where they're looking, how they're interacting with it, and whether they're doing what you want them to do, which in most cases is sign up, contact you through a contact form or request information form, or buy something through your website. Like I said before, with this information, you can really make some informed decisions on how to improve things to achieve those goals that you're trying to accomplish. It is absolutely free to install on your website. It's just a little piece of code that you add to every page. It provides what I'll just call endless data, which is easy to get lost in. One other thing that I'll mention is that for some clients that we work with that have larger sites, you can actually filter out and look at a very specific segment of a website. So, for instance, we work a lot with Kent State University, the College of Business. So we have a filter in analytics that can look specifically at the traffic to their section of the website. So that's very good to know as well. So I'm actually going to jump in right into things because, like I said, hands-on is the way to go with this. And I'll be bouncing back and forth between the presentation because I will send this to you as a follow-up, and I'll try to include screens in here so you can follow afterward. But I will be jumping, like I said, right into analytics. So when you log into analytics now, and this is a change that has happened over the last, I'd say, 6 months, you get this screen of all this stuff going on. And what Google's trying to do is give you a baseline for how things are going. But we're actually going to jump into what was the old version of the home page to start. And I'll actually turn this comparative off. And so what you're seeing is that I'm actually navigating to a specific area, a specific time frame that I want to focus on for this presentation. So this is actually live metrics. My uncle, Mark Konis, who runs a company called Bruning Glass Works in Cleveland, Ohio. It's a shop that specifically focuses on repairing glass. And so he's given us access to show for learning purposes in this webinar. So this is live data. And, you know, I'll just jump in and start talking through some baseline metrics. So the first thing that we look at is something called sessions. So that's Google's term for visits. So sessions are, during this time frame, July 1st through July 31st, how many total visitors came to the website. Users are the total number of unique visitors coming to the website. So if I came 4 times in July, it would be noted as 4 under sessions and 1 under users. Page views are the total number of pages viewed by all of your visitors in this time frame. Pages per session, that's pretty straightforward. On average, how many pages people look at when they come to your website. Session duration, again, very straightforward there. And if you have any questions about it, I've defined these in my PowerPoint presentation, again, which I'll pass along to you. Or you can just hover over them and get an explanation. But I've tried to just give them to you very, very at a high level. Anyways, one of the other things that people look at is the bounce rate. And this is the number of people that come to your website and leave after viewing only 1 page. And so these metrics are important to kind of digest at a high level, but we'll be diving a little bit deeper into them to talk about what they really mean. And you'll see that in almost a comparative way when we look at time period to time period. Let's see here. So I've highlighted key metrics for you to reference as a follow-up. Something else that's critically important is what Google calls goals or conversion. So these are essentially things that you define as a milestone or something that you want to have the user achieve on your website. Very commonly, we focus on, these turn out to be website form submissions, which I've highlighted here, or when someone buys something through your website, that is calculated and noted by Google through analytics, but you actually have to set this up and configure this. These aren't provided to you by default. Something else that you can set as baseline metrics is, if a user visits over, 10 pages on your website, if they spend a certain amount of time on your website, or something they call events, whether somebody plays a video or downloads a PDF from your website. So the things that I recommend to clients, because we come in a lot of different types of ways, in that in some cases clients have set up goals already and others they haven't. But a lot of clients tend to focus on putting metrics as goals that aren't necessarily trackable to the bottom line. Again, we got to think Michael Scott. When I go in to talk to my boss or the powers that be, what is he or she going to ask me about? And what we want to report on is the things most relevant to the bottom line, which essentially come down to website form submissions or purchases through the website. In that's the common experience. So how do we find these once they're set up in analytics? And they're not too difficult to configure. That would be that is on the left-hand side here. And this is your way to find a lot of different things in Google Analytics, the left side navigation. So I want you to jump to conversions, goals, and overview. And again, this is noted in the PowerPoint. And so you can see in this time frame how many goal completions have been essentially that have come through in this time period. So this is only online contact form submissions. You can see this is the sole goal. You can set up a number of goals on your website. So we can see that once this is set up, not only do we know how many people have contacted us, but what the conversion rate, leads or goal completions versus visits, And this becomes a very, very critical baseline metric as you move forward. You know, have we improved things? Has the number of, not only number of goals improved, but has the conversion rate improved from an overall standpoint and on individual sections of the website? And I think a way to show how important this is not only can you see how many people have achieved this milestone, but you can also break down, I'll show you really quick here, what channel that these people have used to come in through the website. So you can see that of these 331 people who have contacted us, 225 have come from Google Organic, and it breaks things down even more so. So it's really powerful. And I'll show you another screen here shortly where you can break this down at a high level to really diagnose how the site is doing. So let me get back to my PowerPoint presentation here. So I'm showing you the goals or completions, and again, really trying to highlight within the interface where to find these, because like I said, it's super easy to get lost in analytics. The next thing that I want to direct you to is the Google Analytics channel screen, which shows you, and you can find that under Acquisition, All Traffic, Channels. It breaks down, you know, we can see here, this is almost 7,000 visits to the website. These are the specific high-level channels that people have used to get to our website in this time frame. So I know there's a lot of data here. Just focus on sessions or, like I said, visits to the website in this time period. So you can see not only the amount, but the percentage of people who have found Mark's website in this time period. And so it's very interesting, the breakdown of it. So organic search is people finding your website by typing in a specific phrase and clicking on what is a natural ad or a non-paid ad. And the non-paid ads are the ones that, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, that don't have the ad to the left of it. So those are typically below the paid ads, which are designated with this ad at the very top. Direct searches are people, or direct visits are people coming to your website by typing in your website URL directly. So bruninglass.com or any URL on your website directly. Referral traffic are people who have visited your site that are referred by other websites. So if I click on this and dive in a little bit deeper, I can see that of the people who have come to this website in this period of time, some of them have come from this website, bernardkatz.com. Another, hey, listen, you got a few visits from goodhousekeeping.com, and that has proven to be another really important metric that I look at is of how people came to the website. Did they actually reach out to you? And because we have this goal completion in place, the structure, we can see how effective traffic from not only this website, but also in our overall channel breakdown, how effective that is in getting a response from. So I'll get into that in a little bit more in a second here, but the power of not only traffic, because traffic is great to have, but I've learned that, you know, I know better than to go into a client's office and say, hey, listen, a few months in, traffic is way up, but, you know, hey, leads aren't up, you know. That's a problem, and that says to me we're not doing our job. Stick City Marketing is not doing our job. Our job is to come in and drive more relevant leads to get more of a response, and so that's something that we're hyper-focused on. And again, another channel that people can find your website through is social media, so that is the major social media websites, so that's Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter. All of those people are coming to find you, and this is how Google Analytics categorizes it. Another few channels that aren't designated here, if you're doing paid advertising through analytics, paid LinkedIn, paid Facebook, that's another area that will be designated here. In some instances, you have to configure that. If you haven't configured that, say for instance, in the case of AdWords, the traffic coming to your website from an incorrectly configured AdWords campaign will actually go into organic search, which is kind of not so great for trying to evaluate whether the traffic that you're paying to come to your website is working or not. The major thing, once you kind of start with these screens to take away from, is well, this is great, but tell me how we're doing. And analytics allows you to compare time frames by going up to this top right-hand corner. If you click on this, and you'll see I can change date ranges as you saw earlier in the presentation. But if I hit compare to, I can either compare it to the previous period of time or the previous year. In this particular instance, Mark has data going back all the way to 2008. So I like to compare year over year to account for seasonality. And so now we get into the performance of the website from an overall standpoint, comparing year over year. So I'll go back to our initial screen so we can say, okay, when we're looking at the overall website traffic, visits are up about 20% year over year. And then if I go into conversions, and I'll work back to the channels here, we can see that conversions are up 35% compared to the previous period of time, right? So that's great. So you're walking into your boss's office and you say, hey, listen, traffic's up. That's usually a good conversation to have. But when you say traffic is down, yeah, you're having a little bit of a different conversation. Traffic is down year over year and leads are down if that's the case year over year. The next question is, in either case, why? And that's where you can figure that out starts with going into acquisition all traffic channels. This channel screen is fantastic in terms of figuring out what's working and what's not working, because if traffic is down, you can look at the specific channel to see why it's down and then take further steps to analyze that. But you can see the breakdown of organic search traffic. That's looking good. Certainly there are ways to improve on that. 15% increase year over year. Goal completions are up year over year about 36%, which is great. And believe it or not, we work with my uncle's business kind of sporadically. A lot in the beginning, which was actually probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and not so much now, but every once in a while he'll hire us in to do a project. And something that we did about a month ago that really made a huge difference, actually more like 3 months ago, was making his site mobile friendly. And I'll show you a screen that conveys how much that has made an impact on the website in a second here. But again, at a very high level, you're looking at the channels. You can see that organic search is a big part of how people find his website, and how they're performing will lead you to saying, okay, things are going well or things aren't going so well. And that is really the few key screens initially that I wanted to introduce you to. In the things that I personally look at on an ongoing basis when I'm either starting with a client or as we're getting into things. Certainly variables that can come into play are, okay, traffic's up, traffic's down. Well, that's great, but if nothing's happening on the website, it's tough to diagnose what's working, what's not working, at least at a high level. So let me just kind of walk through, again, as part of the review and documentation, I've showed you the channel screen, and I've defined in here some of the specific channels, the key channels or major channels that you'll encounter. And again, you got a little bit of a taste of how we present things in overall traffic to the website, the things that we present at the very top of a monthly report. Because listen, when you're talking to people that you're reporting to, whether it's, I'm talking to a client or you're talking to your boss, you're going to have a limited amount of time with them. So you want to make sure that what you're presenting is spot on and very to the point. So the things that we pull out and present at the top of a monthly report are, differences in overall traffic, a year-over-year comparison, traffic for key online marketing channels, as you can see through the channel screen, and then something that certainly they're most interested in is conversions. So if conversions are up, conversions are down, what channel points to that, and that will direct you where to go from there. And that leads me to my next screen, which, again, this goes through highlighting changes, and then also, just focusing on the goals, and making sure we include that and review that as part of our overall data. The next thing that you will look at in these key screens to evaluate how things are going, and these are kind of some of the critical, what I call the critical key views, once you have both of these elements set up. If I go into analytics, I can go into behavior, site content. I'll go to all pages, right? So I'm going to turn off the comparison screen to begin with to just introduce these screens. And I know we're running about 20 minutes now. I'll finish up in about 3 minutes, and then I can have you guys ask questions. What I'd ask you to do is just chat with me through the join.me screen if you're logged in, or you can just shoot me an email, and I'll check my email and respond to specific questions. But this is a screen, I'm jumping back to behavior, site content, all pages. This will show you the top viewed pages in this period of time. So, and I know I haven't introduced my Uncle Sites visually, so let me show you that. He has a very minimalistic website. And you can see this is the home page. And really, what was the biggest key to getting more traffic to his website was that every single repair seemed to be unique. So essentially, every time he repairs something, he blogs about it and shows the before and the after. And I'm just kind of walking you through it. And every blog post is treated as a new page of content by Google. So if I Google something like crystal repair wine glass by making this a blog post, and it's loading here a little bit slowly here. I Google crystal repair wine glass with broken stem. I'm accounting for a detailed search. When someone, ideally we rank for that search, it comes to this page. Here is the post, right? It's very specific to what they're searching for. And here's the call to action to contact him. And it's proven to be extremely effective. So you'll see that a lot of his web pages here are actually blog category pages or tag pages. And they've proven to be extremely effective for drawing people to the website for very, very specific searches. So you can see here, here's the list of the top pages. And if I go to one like Waterford Crystal Repair, you can evaluate, because these are the most visited pages, you can evaluate, well, listen, you know, I know that a lot of people are on these pages. Even before I start talking about getting more traffic, what can I do to improve this page? Some of the things that we often recommend are adding, you know, this is targeting Waterford Crystal Repair, so why not add a slideshow gallery rather than a static picture? Calls to action are extremely important on a page. He's done that, and he's included not only a web form, but a phone number. You know, pictures, any kind of additional content, recommendations, awards that he's won, interlinking to pages that are relevant, he's done that here, are good ways to improve the user experience on your website. Another screen that's incredibly important is site content landing pages. And I'll just briefly show you this there. I want to show you one more screen, and I apologize. And I'm talking a little bit, but I get excited about this stuff because it's just so powerful to see how you're doing and then make strategic informed decisions on next steps with your website. So this is a screen called Top Landing Pages into your website. That's site content landing pages, and I have noted that in the PowerPoint presentation. These are the pages that people come into the website from. So / would be an indication of the home page, but you can see people are coming in through very, very targeted searches. And, you know, if we look at a page, you know, the average goal conversion rate is about 5%. Here's a page that's not converting as well. This is antique lamp repair. It's converting at about 1.45%. Let me open up this page and take a look at it. Well, I know a lot of people are coming into our website through this page. What are things that we can do to improve this page? And they fall along the same lines of what I just shared in the previous screen, which is, okay, at making sure you add a call to action. You know, do we have pictures of us, you know, showing, you know, Mark doing this specific repair, you know, in addition to the pictures that we have here? Anything, even adding a video, which is one of the things that we moved to when trying to come up with different types of content. Having a video on here, giving a 1 to 2 minute video, giving a general introduction can be incredibly important in increasing the time on the site and the conversion rate. So that at least gives you starting points for how to improve things. You can also use the comparison too. So if I compare to the previous year, if things are up, things are down, I can see them here and make adjustments to pages. So if something dropped, or if something dropped in search, I can make adjustments to add more content to a page or drive more links. This will show you the comparison year over year. So I think that's a good summary of where to start with making strategic changes, or at least where I would start. Let me go to audience. Another screen I'll show you. Another thing that has been really important in checking out is how your site's performing in mobile. And you can see, as I mentioned before, we made his site mobile friendly about 3 months ago, right before the time, sometime in May or June. And you can see, look at the difference in traffic to the website from mobile, and look at the breakdown in response from mobile once we made that change. Google rewarded him for making that change, and then the users responded as a result of that. The conversion rate changed quite a bit, so that's definitely a success. And up until that point, his traffic was trending downward, and so making that change, which is something Google is highly recommending, can really help him out. One other thing, if a lot of you may be targeting people based off of a local area, a screen that you can go to under geolocation, you can actually see where people are, how people are navigating your site from a specific area. So if I go here and I go to California, the repair shop can service people all over the country. So we can see how things are performing from people visiting the website in Los Angeles. So you can see year over year, we've had about 20 visit growth from people in LA. The response has gone down. So if that was something that we were hyper focused on, we would be trying to look at pages that people could find us through in LA. Maybe make more content targeting people in LA, really try to improve the user experience around, I would say, any kind of extra stuff that we're creating in order to appeal to a specific segment. But you can see, once you have this metrics in place, the response from a specific area. The classic case where this comes into play, businesses are hyper-focused on an area, and the same thing with schools. They're hyper-focused on a specific area. There are some additional tools that will help you, when looking at some of these other screens, diagnose how people from a specific area are coming to the website. But it's something that, if you're interested in that, I would definitely have you reach out to me directly, because it's a part of a little bit of a deeper conversation, and it's not necessarily something I would consider like basics. So I've outlined those screens and how to find them. I just want to thank everybody. I know I'm running a little bit long. I will hang on to make sure to answer any questions that you have. If nobody has any questions, I'll address some common questions that I typically have from people that are just learning analytics. But as part of your participation here, again, we're trying to be as helpful as possible. We are offering you a free strategy assessment for your website. The types of things that we would cover in this 1-hour session, review your analytics at a high level. SEO can be a great way to improve response from your website. That's definitely something we would look at, possibly optimize or identify other internet marketing channels that might be most effective for your business, and then make recommendations, quick win things for improving things as part of just things that you can knock out on your own, or as possibly something that we would be helping you with. So here's my contact information. Feel free to reach out. And then if anybody has any questions, I know this is a little bit of a new tool that we're using. Feel free to IM me directly through join.me, or just send me an email, john@680marketing, and we can go from there. So fire away with any questions that you have. And someone had sent me a question, and I saw it pop up on the screen, and it went away really quick. I think it was a question about industry standards. When you're looking at, and that is a common question that I get, when you are evaluating industry standards, that one should see relevant to percentages of goal conversion. So that's the question. That's the first thing that you see, right? When you're looking at someone else's website. I can't talk right now. How does mine compare industry standard? And I think the question was specifically centered around conversion rate. You know, honestly, the thing that I look at is, you know, what do they say? You're looking at the breakdown of a mailing. You know, if you're sending out a mailing, you're looking at a success rate of about 3%. I think that's on par with internet marketing. You want to shoot for somewhere around a 3% conversion rate. That's something I would say would be solid from an overall standpoint on the website. You know, but certainly it's tough to speak to specific industries. But I'd say the 3% mark is something to shoot for. Let's see here. You can add PD advertising as a channel. Sorry, I missed that one again. Can you, the person who had asked that question, can you send that over to me again? Sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties with the IEMs coming through. It just pops up and goes away for a second. But hopefully that answered your question about industry standards. Another thing that I'll tell you, everyone's really paranoid about bounce rate when I talk to them. That is a common question that I get. You know, so I wouldn't be hyper focused on your overall bounce rate. Sorry, the question's coming through. So here, 1 second. Let's see. The question is, you had mentioned that you can add your PD advertising as a channel, so you can track how, or your paid advertising, so you can track how people came to our website. But there's another comment about AdWords pulling into the organic search unless you configure it. Did I get that right? Yes. So by default, when you configure Google AdWords, you need to sync that up. You need to sync that up directly so that it goes into analytics and pulls in things correctly. Otherwise, it will go into organic. So there are some settings that you can configure if you're doing it on your own that will sync up AdWords and analytics. Otherwise, what I would tell you to do is if you're unsure and you're running AdWords on an ongoing basis, you can call Google Analytics, believe it or not, directly. If you just Google AdWords phone support, there'll be a baseline number that you can call into. They'll review your account. The technical support on AdWords is usually really, really good, and I can't say that for some of the other paid channels. So yeah, that's something that I would be extremely concerned with if you're unsure of whether you have that configured correctly. One other thing I'll answer really quickly is about bounce rate. I had mentioned that in terms of bounce rate, people are very concerned about, you know, oh, is that high? Is that not high? If I'm looking at my uncle's, he is my uncle, Mark Honus, it's 74%, and that's out of 100. What I would be concerned about bounce rate is actually when you get into acquisition, the channels or landing pages. So you can see, let's see, bounce rate by channel. That's something you can take a look at. But even if you really want to be concerned about things, I would go into behavior landing pages and look at, you know, the way you evaluate how effective people are navigating your site is if they're coming into a specific page, you can look at whether they're bouncing from that page, how much time they spend on the website, and how many pages that they've looked at. So in your next steps type of approach, you can say, okay, you know, we're going to make these changes to the pages, and we're going to see if that changes pages per session, time on site. Adding a video is a great way to improve time on site for a specific page. And then also what would be essentially the most important thing in a lot of cases is whether the conversion rate improves. And making sure you add a call to action on a page, making sure that it's above the what they call the fold on the page, above the scroll is really important. And one other quick thing as a tip is that don't discount the mobile experience. So this is a little bit more aggressive, but when you go to this page in a mobile device, you can see that the call to action is above the fold rather than pushed down at the very bottom. And I see a lot of sites doing that now. It's on the right-hand side. They fold the call to action below the content, and that can really drop conversion rates dramatically on the mobile side. So it's another tip that you can incorporate into your strategy moving forward to really help. I just really want to thank everybody for attending the webinar. We had about 50 people sign up for it today. So I was overwhelmed by the response, and I greatly appreciate it. And again,